Welcome to the Explainer. Okay, let's dive right into this because today we're completely demystifying the U.S. visa interview process for 2026. Look, whether you're applying for a tourist visa, a student visa, or a work visa, walking up to that embassy window can feel incredibly intimidating. But honestly, it absolutely doesn't have to be. We're going to break down exactly how to prepare, what those consular officers are actually evaluating, and how you can confidently tackle their most common questions.
So, have you ever wondered, what is the visa officer actually typing when you first walk up to that window? It's a totally nerve-wracking moment, right? They haven't even said hello yet, but they're already evaluating you. Well, from an insider's perspective, they aren't just typing random notes. They have your DS-160 application wide open on their screen, and they're actively observing your body language, your preparedness, and your overall confidence level before you even say a single word.
And the reason they're sizing you up so intensely, well, it all comes down to one massive piece of U.S. immigration law. Let's drop a quick knowledge bomb here, Section 214B of the Immigration and Nationality Act. This is the legal presumption that every single applicant is an intending immigrant unless they can prove otherwise. Essentially, the officer is legally required to assume you plan to stay in the U.S. forever. It's your job, in just a fast-paced 2 to 5 minute interview, to overcome this huge hurdle. You have to demonstrate absolute honesty, consistency, and overwhelmingly strong ties to your home country.
Now, because of that massive Section 214B hurdle, your actual success begins way before you ever set foot inside the embassy. The foundational steps are absolutely critical. We're talking about completing your DS-160 form accurately, paying your visa fees, scheduling your appointment, and systematically organizing your supporting documents. If you rush these steps or make careless typos, honestly, no amount of smooth talking at the interview window is going to save your application. You've got to review your application thoroughly before the interview.
And speaking of paperwork, let's bust a major myth right here, right now. Former U.S. visa officers state with 100% certainty that the officer is going to look at your DS-160. But all those physical documents that you bring, the officer is most likely not even going to look at them. Your DS-160 isn't just some tedious paperwork chore. It's the absolute foundation of your application. It acts as the literal script for your interview, and it shapes every single question the officer is going to ask you.
Which brings us to a huge policy update for 2026 regarding that DS-160 form. You are now required to list every single social media account you've had in the past 5 years, and those profiles must be set to public. And yes, that explicitly includes platforms like Reddit and YouTube. Writing none when you actually have accounts is no longer treated as just a simple oversight. It's legally considered misrepresentation, which can completely ruin your chances. Absolute transparency here is totally non-negotiable.
Okay, so even though the officer probably won't glance at your thick stack of papers, you still have to bring them just in case they need to verify a detail. You want to categorize your essentials. First, your absolute must-brings, your valid passport, DS-160 confirmation, appointment confirmation, and a photograph if required. Then, your supporting evidence, financial proof, an employment letter, and any visa-specific documents like an admission letter or I-20 for students or an invitation letter. Keep all of this neatly organized in a folder so you aren't frantically fumbling around if the officer asks for something.
All right, fast forward to the climax of this whole process. You are finally standing at the interview window. In this moment, your nonverbal cues and how you communicate are just as important as your paperwork. Dress professionally, business casual is a great rule of thumb. Speak clearly, maintain strong eye contact, listen really carefully before answering, and most importantly, stay calm and answer only what is asked of you. Offering long, rambling stories that the officer didn't ask for is only going to raise red flags.
So, once you're at the window, the officer is highly likely to kick things off with a question probing your purpose. Something like, why do you want to visit the U.S.? Who is paying for your trip? Or maybe, why did you choose this university? They use these questions to immediately figure out if you have a genuine, temporary intent to travel. They absolutely do not want a scripted response. They're looking for a clear, specific, and believable answer that seamlessly matches what's on your application.
And this brilliantly illustrates the difference between passing and failing that opening test. A weak answer is something vague, like, I just want to visit and see places. I mean, that tells the officer absolutely nothing. But look at this strong answer. I'm doing a 10-day tourism trip to New York and D.C., then returning to my job in India. Boom, that is perfect. It gives a specific time frame, locations, and crucially, an immediate concrete reason why you have to leave the U.S. and return home. Next up, the officer is likely going to test that 214B presumption directly by asking, what ties do you have to your home country? Now, they might ask this directly or indirectly with questions like, what do you do for a living? Do you have relatives in the U.S.? Or what are your plans after your visit?
Remember, this is the massive legal barrier you have to break through. You have to prove to the officer that your life back home is so compelling, so deeply rooted that you literally have no choice but to return after your temporary stay.
Here's another quick comparison to show you exactly how to navigate this. If you say something like, "Not many ties, I'll decide my plans later," you are practically handing the officer a reason to deny your visa on a silver platter. Don't do that. You want to deliver a strong answer that mathematically forces a return home. Saying "my parents, property, and my permanent job as an engineer are all in my home country" explicitly hits the trifecta. You've got family obligations, financial assets, and stable employment all lined up. Now, you should also be aware of a newer, much more sensitive focus for these interviews. Because of recent rule changes, officers might actually ask you direct questions about your personal safety, like whether you've experienced harm or fear returning to your home country. This is tricky because if your verbal answers even hint that you might seek asylum or protection in the United States, the officer may conclude you don't have true non-immigrant intent, and that will lead to a refusal. Honesty is absolutely key, but your answers must remain completely consistent with the temporary visit.
And keep in mind, the officer's expectations completely shift depending on the specific visa category you applied for. If you're going for a B1 or B2 tourist visa, their primary focus is your temporary travel intent and your finances. If you're applying for an F1 student visa, they're looking hard at your academic capability and your home ties. And for work visas, like the H-1B or exchange and family-based visas, the focus shifts heavily to your specific job duties, your qualifications, and your approved petition.
Okay, let's talk red flags. These are the absolute fatal mistakes that will instantly sink your interview. Providing inconsistent information, especially if it contradicts your DS-160, is a massive red flag. So is memorizing robotic, scripted answers, speaking way too much, or interrupting the officer. And obviously, presenting fake documents or trying to hide previous visa refusals or overstays, total disaster. So, the crucial point is, just be a human being having a conversation. Know your facts, be totally honest, and please, do not sound like a rehearsed robot.
Listen, I literally cannot stress this next point enough. Under Section 212A of the Immigration and Nationality Act, misrepresentation, using fake documents, or hiding a criminal record can result in a permanent, lifetime ban from the United States. Attempting to hide an embarrassing detail like a previous refusal or even a minor past arrest is exponentially worse than the detail itself. Absolute, uncompromising honesty is legally required.
All right, so your 2 to 5 minutes are up. You made it. What happens next? Well, at the end of your interview, you'll generally face one of 4 outcomes. Your visa could be outright approved, which is great. You might be placed in administrative processing, known as 221G. They might request additional documents to verify a detail. Or, unfortunately, your visa could be refused, most commonly under that Section 214B, failure to prove strong home ties that we talked about. Though, depending on the reason, a refusal doesn't necessarily prevent future applications.
Now, if you hear the phrase administrative processing, seriously, do not panic. A 221G hold is simply a pause, it is not a denial. It's just a legal mechanism that gives the consulate some extra time to verify your information, run background checks, or clear up minor inconsistencies. It can definitely be frustrating to wait around, but it just means your application is still very much alive.
So, let's wrap this all up with some rapid-fire final tips for interview success. Number 1, tell the absolute truth every single time. Know your DS-160 application inside and out. Seriously, read it the night before and practice saying your answers out loud so you don't freeze. Arrive at the embassy early, follow all their instructions, and when you step up to that window, just be confident and respectful. This is a fast-paced conversation. Brevity, confidence, and honesty are your best friends here.
Which leaves us with one final, absolutely critical question to think about as you get ready for your day at the embassy. When the visa officer looks at their screen, reads your form, and then looks up at you, will your verbal answers seamlessly match the story your DS-160 has already told them? Ultimately, your interview is a test of consistency. Make sure your spoken words and your paperwork are telling the exact same truthful story.